I am a narrator for the UBEC and will explain everything about soulmates, what they are, why they exist, and how they come into existence. I am sure you know that you are more than a physical body, it has an indwelling immortal spirit or soul that is you, and you would not be here in that body without having gone through the wrenching process and all the associated actions described next. There are 4 distinct energy levels that determine a soul's state of being. Those levels are 1st, 3rd, 5th, or 7th degree, and it is the level of energy a spirit being maintains that determines its degree of being. I will not discuss the 1st degree beings because the subject is too long and involved. I will, however, explain the 3rd degree spirit being because that is the energy level at which every mortal on every inhabited world in the universe began their existence. There are hundreds of billions of light years between then and now, but I will start from the beginning and pick up from after the eventuation, Big Bang, and when its temperature had subsided sufficiently to allow the wrenching to begin. The wrenching is something that occurred that no one on this planet is aware. No scientist, teacher, or clergyman has any idea it ever happened. In 1991, Ranai and Magna were deep into researching past life experiences. It was during one of those excursions, Ranai asked her to follow his vibration back to his first mortal life experience. Magna connected with his frequency and traced it back in time, and they suddenly found themselves at the origin of their existence. Incredulous as it may sound, they were at the point in time-space when all souls came into existence. That's right, everyone began their soul's journey at that time, thus there is no such thing as an old soul, merely the amount of acquired knowledge and experience they have gained since then. During that tracing, Magna not only observed the events, she even re-experienced some of the happenings she felt at the original occurrence. Ranai recorded the entire process as she witnessed and explained the circumstances as they occurred. It took several minutes of observation before they realized where she actually was in time-space and what she was seeing. While there, we took this seek even further by investigating our first mortal life's experiments. Ranai has that audio recording of the event that he will share with you at the end of this video. Now that all souls exist, I will explain the development of soulmates. Emerging from the wrenching process, there were 3rd degree energy spirit beings who began experimenting with how to manipulate matter mentally, and through much trial and error, started creating worlds and building solar systems. The next step in their evolution was to develop plant and animal forms. Eons passed and many different life forms thrived on various worlds. None of this occurred quickly. It required millions of years. Somewhere within those many millions of years of evolutionary growth, these beings surmised that if they could divide themselves in half, they could be more productive, so through a form of mitosis they learned how to split their 3rd degree energy into 2 5th degree beings. It is those 2 halves of a divided soul that constitute soulmates. Without belaboring millions of more years of evolution where they learned to create and develop planets, galaxies, plants, and animals. As part of their manipulating matter, these spirit energy beings had been indwelling inanimate rocks and boulders since their beginnings. It eventually became evident that as spirit beings they could see and hear their creations but not touch them. Came their epiphany: what if we indwelt them? Could we then acquire the tactile? With more trial and error, they learned that while attempting to indwell a mortal structure, their energy levels were too high and burned up the potential hosts. They also discovered they could not divide themselves again but must shuck off various amounts of energy to lower it to a state of 7th level. This act also required extensive time and effort to accomplish. As 3rd or 5th degree beings they could only inhabit inanimate objects, but now as a 7th degree they could for the first time be able to enter and share a mortal structure and be able to touch and feel, taste an apple, and smell a flower. Since they were immortal, they had no concept of death until they realized that the plants and animals were fragile, and did not last very long. They first experienced and learned the concept of mortal death while indwelling an animated structure when it suddenly died, and they found themselves in an empty shell. Eventually, they learned how to enter an unborn fetus and experience a mortal's natural birth. However, that act required taking responsibility for that physical structure because as the solitary indwelling soul, it could no longer just jump in and out as they did with dual occupation. Thus began our many reincarnating lives sojourning on the mortal wheel of karma. Ranai recorded the wrenching tape on August 14, 1991, and I will explain what you will hear on the recording. To the best of our knowledge, this recording is the only one of its type in existence on Earth that contains such information. After the massive heat from the initial eventuation explosion cooled sufficiently to allow mitosis to begin, thousands of vines similar to grapevines began emerging from the shadows of space. These vines were identical in structure and function. Each vine held 77 cocoon-type pods. Within each of the 77 clumps of pods were 11 additional pods that further supported 21 cocoons. Each of the 21 cocoons housed 3 individual cocoons, each of which contained and supported 7 souls that eventually wrenched free and began their personal existence. Mathematically speaking, each grapevine of 77 cocoons nurtured 373,527 souls. Multiply that amount by an unknown number of trillions of vines, and you may begin to fathom the enormity of existing soul beings. Now you ask how we know all this to be a fact? All soul's essence consists of pure energy and possesses its own unique and identifiable frequency. We at the UBEC were very fortunate to have had our highly gifted clairvoyant seer Magna with her extraordinary ability to psychically identify and lock on to an individual soul's vibration and trace it back through time-space. We at the UBEC hope you found this information enlightening and will possibly change the way you view our world.